The objective is to have a Palestinian state on the borders of 1967 that will live in
peace and security.
The lesson of history is that peace and security do not come easily.
Peace and stability
Must decide whether we are serious about peace and security. To recognize Israel's legitimacy and its right to exist in peace and security. That's how we will find new pathways to peace and security. That is the work that we must do.
In peace and security.
Peace and security and coexistence.
A movement towards peace. If we have this triangle, economy, security, and peace, then peace can succeed.
It is morning. You wake up.
Hey, come on.
You greet your loved ones. You grab the morning paper. And although it seems like any ordinary day, it isn't. For one extraordinary reason.
A historic and unprecedented event has occurred. The question of whether or not we are alone in the universe has been answered.
This is so cool.
More ships have just arrived over India, England, and Germany.
I really don't think they flew 90 billion light years to come down here and start a fight.
We gotta stop them! They're gonna kill us all!
They're using our own satellites against us. The clock is ticking.
It's over.
Years from now, they're gonna ask, where were you when they took over the planet?
You'll be fine. I promise. It's over. I'm sorry, but it's over. I think it's time.
Your faith in us, but never in yourselves. From here, the fight will be your own.
We're running out of time. We're running out of clues. And there's an invasion coming. So really, we need to go right now. War has started.
My dad said they'd come. He said, we ain't alone. He said one day we'd find them. Or they'd find us.
How desperate are you? And you call on such lost creatures to defend you. Our enemy can take any shape.
You have made me very desperate.
They could be anywhere.
We're not a team. We're a time bomb.
This is nothing we were ever trained for.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Revelation Per Minute with the Radio Preacher Man. Some people just don't understand why I am the way I am. but I'm a radio preaching man.
Prepared for it. And I think, my belief is that this whole system they've designed for us is designed to fail because you can't bring in a new system until you've destroyed the previous one.
Right.
And that's what's going on now. And what happens when that second phase fails, when that coalition government...
Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to Revelation Per Minute on the Liberty Broadcasting Network with the radio preacher man and his cup of green coffee, or his green cup of coffee, rather. Ha! Let me clarify that, Bill. The coffee's a little green, too. It looks like muddy water. But that's what happens when you use almond milk instead of creamer. Anyway, we are back. Amen. We are back at the show here with our friend tonight. Amen. And we are talking with Bill Fawell. I hope I'm saying your name correctly.
It's actually Faywell.
Faywell. Okay.
Faywell.
All right. I want to say Falwell like old Jerry, but it looks a little different. So Faywell.
Long answer.
All right. And he has written a book for us, folks, and this is fresh off the press, I believe, and it's time to entertain the idea of taking back, Congress. Bill, you told me earlier how many seats were up for grabs this year?
There are 468 seats up there. There are always 435 seats in the House of Representatives because they're all up every year. And this year there are 33 seats in the Senate. They're 6-year terms, and every 3 years, 33, then 33, and then the off year, 34. So all 100 senators are staggered over the course of 3 years. So we've got 468 seats up. If we can take 75% of them, Brian, we take back control of the Congress. And in our Constitution, the power is really in the hands of Congress.
Yeah.
And what has happened is that if you look to the duties of Congress as specified by Article 1, Section 8 and 9 of our United States Constitution, all those items, controlling the money, defense, maintaining schools, trade, commerce, those are the basic building blocks of running a nation, just running the business of the nation. Mm-hmm. And what has happened is that all of those duties Congress doesn't do anymore. Now they're off doing the state's duties and violating the 10th Amendment. And a lot of times, I talk to a lot of people, obviously. I go to some Tea Party groups, Patriot Party groups. I even go to Occupy Wall Street groups. And I'm a member of all those groups because I think at the core, everyone knows there is a problem with our government. And at the core, I think everyone agrees that what needs to be done.
Yeah.
And that is to restore the Constitution. In fact, how many times, Brian, have you heard someone say, gee, if we could just get this country back to the original tenets of our United States Constitution as laid out by our founding fathers and the framers of that Constitution, America would be all right. And they're absolutely right, but when you go on and ask them further, okay, what is it that we have to do? They just go silent because they haven't really put the finger on that. And that's what kind of my studies led me to do. And my teacher was George Washington. There's a guy with a heck of a pedigree, don't you think?
Yes.
And basically, he ran into the same problem. He had presided over the Constitutional Convention, and now he was president, and he had to make this thing work. And in that process, he made some mistakes. Congress made some mistakes. And looking back in his farewell address to the nation, he pointed out, he gave the nation a warning, much in the same spirit that Eisenhower warned the nation of the military-industrial complex at the end of his 2 terms. But what Washington's one mistake was is that in 1791 he had signed the charter for the first U.S. bank, which was America's first experiment with a private central bank. And it turned out to be a disaster. And what Washington pointed out is that any time, what happened is that the Congress's power to regulate and the money and the money supply and foreign currency was handed off to this first U.S. bank. And Washington said, when you do this, and he didn't talk about the bank specifically, what he talked about was if you will allow these powers of Congress to be usurped, is the word he used, they will end up in the hands of cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled men who will use these powers to make themselves rich, but destroy the nation. And if you look at the Federal Reserve Bank, it's our third experiment, passed on Christmas Eve, I believe it was, in 1913. And the power and the control of Congress over money went to a small group of men, and it's been that way ever since. And they've been running and controlling things from behind closed doors. Now, Washington went on further in his farewell speech, and he said, if you allow this to happen for these unprincipled men who will always get their hands on these powers, he said, this is the customary weapon by which free governments are destroyed. And what he says that what has to be done with these constitutional powers, he makes it very clear that they, I'm looking for the passage right here. Oh, it's, our government can only operate justly when the regular deliberation and action of the constituted authorities, which is Congress, are digested in the public procedure, which is the public forum. And the public forum is the mechanism in our government that allows the people to control the government. Right now we are ruled instead of the people are ruling. And that's the difference between liberty and tyranny.
It doesn't seem like the Congress even has much power anymore. They get all bullied and such.
They farmed it all out. They don't have the power anymore. Look at commerce is operated by the Commerce Department, and the World Trade Organization. Our money is run by, basically it comes down to a handful of people in Washington, D.C., and the Federal Reserve Bank, led by Ben Bernanke, that determine what the money is going to be. And he takes his orders from pretty much the board of the New York Federal Reserve, which is led by Jamie Dimon of J.P. Morgan, and the rest of the members of that bank are the other criminal banking elements of New York. They even run the consulting and tell Tim Geithner what to do with the Treasury Department. So all these powers of Congress have been taken away. And what happens, Brian, there's two things that happen when these powers are taken away from Congress. And the same two things happen when these powers are returned to Congress. And that's the reason for the petition that I have on my website, encouraging everyone to sign it. Becomes the litmus test for who you give your vote to, which candidate you give your vote to in the Congress. And this is how we take it back. But let's go back to the public forum and see what happens when it's removed and the powers of Congress are removed from Congress and the public forum. Number one, all those powers end up in the hands of cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled men, and they make deals, everything behind closed doors. The second thing that happens, and this is the most critical thing, is that all the transparency that we, the people, require in order to be able to render judgment come Election Day is gone. That's why people sit there and they think, gee, you know, I think my congressman's doing wrong, but I really can't put my finger on it. So
yeah.
I'm probably going to vote for him. The guy's got a lot of money out there, and he's pushing. It's hard for anyone to get it. It's the loss of transparency. Let me explain it at public forum. This
at least our president
people
has transparency, right?
Oh. Yeah, in your dreams, right?
He said he did.
Let me explain the public forum to your listening audience so they get a better idea of exactly what it is and how it works. Think of the public forum as a baseball field. And on that field, the game of baseball, or in our case, the game of legislation and execution of the constitutional powers of Congress, need to be played, and so we can watch it. Now, imagine if we go to the ballpark and the players don't come out, the pitchers don't pitch, and the hitters don't hit, but after 3 hours, someone in a suit comes out and announces a score and a winner. Well, we have no idea what's going on, whether our team or why our team won and lost. We don't know who the bums are, and we don't know who is our hero. That's the problem in America today. Our Congress never takes the field to play the game. We're given statistics and scores. We have no real idea what happened because we don't know who is our hero and who is the GOAT. There's no transparency in the performance of Congress, and we no longer have the tools to judge our electors. And when that happens, it is impossible for the people to be and render unto the government the consent of the governed. And if you go back to our Declaration of Independence, in the second paragraph, it comes right out. Governments are instituted amongst men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. So when you take the powers away from Congress, you remove those powers from the public forum, from the transparency that we need to judge our government so that we can give our consent to the government and justify that government. And that's why we're ruled instead of ruling, because we've lost that. And by forcing Congress to take back their constitutional duties, running money, running commerce, running the defense or the defense of the nation, and having the power to declare wars, all these powers are gone. The power to declare war is now in the president's hand, or NATO, even worse. Money, which is the very most powerful single power of Congress, has been sent out to the Federal Reserve Bank. And over